Good evening. Thanks for tuning in for another episode of Live with Lenny. Tonight we're going to talk about what's in store for 2024, especially with the new rockfish regulations that were announced last week. After we do that, we're going to get into some other winter fishing opportunities. And I know you're here to see Mr. Lenny Bruno, bring him on. How you doing, Lenny?
What's happening, Zach?
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Not fishing nearly enough.
Yeah, I hear that.
These days need to get longer,
Yeah. The weather's making it a little tough, too. We've had a couple little breaks here, but, man, for the most part, it's been difficult.
Absolutely. I snuck out the other day. It was nice out. I didn't get any bites, but I did catch some pickerel last week, so that was good. They weren't real big, but
and Eric did pretty good on the pickerel today.
He did. And what we're talking about is the CCA Pickerel Championship. That actually runs through the 29th of this month, so there's still time to enter. It's open to all, but CCA members are encouraged, and you can catch crappie, bass, yellow perch, white perch. There's lots of different ways to win. You can fish on via kayak, fly fish, boat, youth, and is maybe lady anglers too. I'm not sure, but
they were also catching some of those other species today. Eric sent me a picture of a crappie. I think Herb caught it, which was very nice. I mean, it was a chunky crappie. I think he said it was 14 inches.
And there's 26, 27-inch pickerel being caught. So, I mean, even if, you're going to have a great time reeling in some big fish, because the pickerel population is just booming in Maryland right now.
No doubt. And I'm sure everybody, or at least a lot of people, are wondering about the rockfish bite right now. Those fish are out there, folks. They haven't gone anywhere, and I don't think they're going to go anywhere. But we'll get to that later, because first we got to cover this morass of regulations. And observant viewers may realize that just a couple months ago we did what's in store for 2024, and we talked about what we knew. And man, just in the last couple of weeks, the deck has been shuffled. We got a whole new set of regs for the regular season. We got all kinds of stuff happening with the potential trophy season, summer season. There's all kinds of stuff going on. So we really need to go through kind of a full update on what's happened in the last couple of weeks regulations wise.
Awesome. And you also have a giveaway this evening, don't you?
We do. We have a Chesapeake Bay Fishing Reefs 2 from Wayne Young. It always confuses me with the camera on the computer. You got to go backwards. Anyway.
So to win that book, any comment, it's going to get drawn at random. So any kind of comments, that includes a couple already on there. Junior, Brian, how you doing? You guys are now entered in to win the book.
And remember, we want to hear your comments, people. We want to hear your questions. That's why we do this live. So just plug them right in, and you'll be in the running for this book, which now Wayne has updated with a new cover and reformatted a little bit. So it's a new opportunity for anybody. And like Zach says, if you make the comment, hey, your name automatically goes into the hat. So you could win. All right. Well, why don't we throw up that first slide, Zach, and we will get right to it. Wait. I was going to say, unless we have any announcements, but I remembered an announcement that even you forgot about.
Well,
it's unusual.
I have an announcement.
You do?
Yeah.
All right. Well, you go first.
Okay. So the winter fishing shows. Every weekend we have awesome winter fishing shows, and there's a brand new one coming to Edgemere this weekend, and that one is called the first annual Mid-State Fishing and Hunting Expo. And I know some of our friends there, like Hayek and Custom Baits, are going to be. There's going to be cool snakehead stuff, so a little bit different than some of the other shows. So definitely check that out at the Edgemere Fire Hall, Sunday, February 4th, from 8 to 4.
Guess what my announcement was?
170-gallon fish tank?
No, I was going to say, don't forget that at the end of this month, we have the Anglers Annapolis Club show coming up. It's at the Elks Lodge, as usual. And that's always a fun one. I'm always there, and it's always a good time. And I'll be there this year. I believe it is the last Saturday in February.
25th, I think. But more importantly,
it is the 24th. Saturday the 24th. Starts at 8 a.m. and we're going to be on scene. Come on by and say hi. Yep, it's on the Fish Talk Mag calendar. And that's always a fun show. I like that one.
Yeah, actually, yeah, I forgot that we don't do this weekly, so we should kind of do the rundown of the whole thing. But you can see them all there. Next week, the Ocean City show. The week following that, or also the Pasadena show. That's the 16th.
Oh, the Pasadena show, yes.
That's the 17th, 18th. Ocean City Seaside show is 16th to 18th. So lots of cool stuff, no matter where you are.
This will be the first year in like 20 years that I will miss the Pasadena show. I'm very sad I won't be there, but I got invited to Key West to go fishing. So, you know.
And on the 24th, the Midshore Club is on the 24th as well.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize that. Okay, good one. Thank you.
So where everyone is, there's somewhere to be.
All right. All right. Well, let's get into these regs. First, we're going to start with coastal regs. You want to go ahead and slap up that slide, Zach? And this is going to be a quickie because the long story short is the coastal regs basically are going to remain the same. We had that 28 to 31 inch slot go in. It's going to remain the same. It's going to be one fish per person. This was done. This was voted in at the ASMFC, Atlantic States Marine Fisheries Commission meeting. And it was I don't remember the exact vote, but it was close to unanimous, if not unanimous. Pretty much everybody was for it. All right, let's go ahead to the next slide. This is what everybody on the Chesapeake Bay wants to hear about. And I want to tell everybody, remind everybody, this covers the entire Chesapeake Bay, Virginia, Potomac River Fisheries Commission, Maryland, DC, everywhere. These are the regs. B2 was what was voted in. You can see that is a 19 to 24 inch slot, one fish per day. Now, the one thing that requires some additional explanation here is the fact that it says under season, same as 2022. Now, for Virginia and Potomac River, that's going to be accurate. Maryland is still a question mark, and we're going to get into why in a second. It is going to be a little different, but when the fish are in season during the regular season, it will be a slot of 19 to 24 inches, one fish per person. All right, please go ahead and take me to the next slide if you would, Zach. Excuse me, next slide. So I wanted to put this up because people, I want to thank you big time. You did a great job on getting in those comments. If you look, this is the slide. I did a screenshot when they put this up during the meeting. And this is the results of the public comment. If you look at B1 through B4, that's the slot limit with one fish per person for everybody. You can see it got overwhelming support. I mean, we're talking 719 for one fish at 19 to 23 written and 142 in the hearing. B2 got a little bit of play. B1 or B2 comments given mostly written. By far overwhelming, the vast majority of the people, 1,355 said B1 or B2. And then you get to B3, a few comments, B4, a few comments. And then when you get to option C1 and C2, which maintains sector separation, if you look at the bottom of the column there, it says 2 fish for hire. That means people fishing on boats that are paid for, charter boats, get 2 fish while everyone else gets 1. You see that the comments were, I mean, if I said minimal, that doesn't even compare. We're talking about 2,200 or so versus 50 or so. So, I mean, 99 point something, right? I mean, that's an overwhelming majority of the folks said no more sector separation. Give us a reasonable slot that the scientists believe are going to restore the fishery. Overwhelming. Now, I got to tell you, I watched that entire meeting, and the DNR rep from the state of Maryland lobbied hard for C1 or C2. In fact, he put forth 3 different motions looking for sector separation, even if it meant a much smaller slot for all the rest of us. Now, don't get me wrong. I want charter boats to be able to catch 2 fish. I want to be able to catch 2 fish. The problem is the pie's only this big. And when we start chopping it up unevenly and shoving it to certain people unevenly, everybody else pays the price. Okay? So I'm not looking, don't get me wrong, I'm not looking to cut back the charters. I'm just looking for the equitable distribution that still makes the numbers that the ASMFC tells us are likely to restore the fishery. Fortunately, the ASMFC does listen to public comment. They really do. If you go back through time and look at the public comments and what they do, it's not like a vote. It's not like if the public comments are in favor of X, they're going to vote for X. It's not like that. But they actually take it into consideration and they talk about it during the meeting. So it does mean something when we're talking about the Atlantic States Marine Fisheries Commission. Now, I know a lot of people are bitter on the neglect that public comment gets when it's submitted to the state. I get that. I feel the same frustration. It's absolutely true. It is. They really just seem to completely blow it off. They really do. Oh, and then call recreational communities vocal during the meeting. Well, apparently it doesn't matter. But it does for the ASMFC. They at least listen. They at least pay attention. And in this case, we got what I think is among the better outcomes. Honestly, personally, I was hoping for a larger slot. I really was. But I'm cool with it. B2, I'm totally cool with it. All right, let's go to the next slot and discuss the other changes on the horizon here, if we could. So this is in the state of Maryland. These items are open for public comment right now. And I believe, Zach, will you put a link in the comments people can follow to give their public comment if they so desire?
You got it. I'm putting it up right now.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, so first question, should May trophy season be closed? Second question, should catch and release be closed during what used to be the trophy season? So in other words, what if they kept May open to catch and release, but not to trophy season? Third question, should the summer closure be extended through the first week of August? So we lose another week in the summertime is the question there. And then fourth question, should the May 16 to 31 early season on the flats be closed to targeting? Now, I will give the DNR credit here. They did a great Google form that lets you put in your input on all these different questions and lets you divvy it up between yes, catch and keep, no catch and keep, yes, catch and release, no catch and keep. It lets you make your choices. It's a pretty fantastic form. So if you follow that link, that will take you to the form and you can give your personal input. Now, Marylanders will probably remember that the state tried to kind of shove all of these things through under an emergency action. Well, an emergency action does not require public comment and is subject to legislative review. The legislators took no action. So they didn't give it the thumbs up. They didn't give it the thumbs down, but they didn't give it the thumbs up. They just let it ride. And the DNR decided, well, we better put this out for public comment. So are they going to listen? I don't know. I honestly can't tell you. But I certainly gave my comments. It takes you 2 minutes. So there's really no reason not to. And I encourage everybody to follow that link and punch in your comments, whatever they may be. Look, you and me may have a different opinion on some of these items. But, you know, at least make your voice heard. And, you know, the summer closure is a great example. I hate to see us lose access. I hate it. But losing a week in the summer, man, we know a lot of fish die, even though we release them. And I got to say, I kind of feel like maybe that's the right move for the fishery, you know? So I'm sorry, but I voice comment in support of that. I hate it, but I support it. Kevin had just asked, if I read that right, it was the timing.
Yes, February 6th.
February, thank you. I wrote it down. See, I got it written down because I knew I wasn't going to remember. You can give your comments through February 6th, so you only have a week. My suggestion is everybody watching this right now, the moment we're finished, just click on it. It's going to add 2 minutes to tonight. That's it. All right, so that's what I got on that. Zach, you want to take us to the next slide, please?
Oh wait, Earl wants a more.
So Earl, you can follow that link Zach put in the comments. Now Earl's on Facebook. Are those on Facebook or Zach or both?
They're on both. It's the Google Doc there.
Great.
Or you can also go to fishtalkmag.com and click on one of the angler alert articles on the homepage, and there's a button within those articles as well.
If you go to the homepage and you click on news, it's the far right article on the first column down. That one has a link direct, and this what you see right up here on the screen right now. Look, I can't figure out how to point. There we go. There's where my camera's going to pick it up. Oh boy, that is so confusing. It's all backwards. There it is. That is the first page of the Google Doc. It's as simple as that. You just click on the dots to fill it in. And, obviously I couldn't go through each page and pop it up there, but it's a really good form. I give credit to whoever made it up for the DNR. Someone in the DNR was responsible for that. I'm sure they did a great job. It really gives you all the options to weigh in. And it does also give you extra space to give separate comments if you have them. So it's good form. Good form. All right, now we are going to move on to some of the current fisheries. Before we do, Zach, do we have any questions regarding these regulations in specific popping up?
You addressed a lot of the questions. So if someone didn't see their comment on screen, you did kind of address most of them. I did see one I flagged earlier.
I suspect we're going to have more comments on this than questions, but that's okay. Yeah. So John saying he's wondered why a slot is different for coastal bays. Okay, so the bottom line is the rockfish are born, right? And the rockfish, depending on whose estimates you believe, somewhere between 60 and 80% of the coastwide population, Maine to North Carolina, they're spawned in the Chesapeake Bay. Well, they tend to remain in the Chesapeake Bay for the first few years of life. When they hit around 30 inches, they tend to begin migrating. So if you go, let's say, to Ocean City's coastal bay and you catch a rockfish, that is probably not a Chesapeake Bay born rockfish. That rockfish was born, perhaps in one of the rivers feeding the coastal bay in OC. I mean, it could be, but the vast likelihood is it wasn't a Chesapeake Bay fish. So in the bay, we're fishing on, let's call them the pre-migrators, right? And males, mostly males. Smaller fish are males. When they get bigger, the females get really big. The males don't. When you catch that 45-inch rockfish, it is not a male. Okay, that's a female fish. So it's kind of two different groups of fish. You've got the fish up and down the coast. And if they're under that 30-inch territory, you kind of know they probably weren't born in the bay. If they're over it, they probably were born in the bay, but they got big enough to migrate out. I want to add to it just as a matter of edification. I remember when the moratorium ended in the fall, we had gobs and gobs and gobs of these 30 to 36-inch fish that, they were resident fish that got really big because nobody was allowed to catch them. So if we didn't fish in the bay all the time at the level we do, we probably see more of these 32s, 34s that stick around, probably males. They don't do the migration, or maybe they do it a little different, who knows. But the bottom line is, we catch those fish often before they get to that size. Now in Ocean City, if you're fishing at the Route 50 bridge and you catch a 29-inch fish, there's a very good chance that fish has never seen the Chesapeake Bay. So it's got a separate regulation. They're kind of two different bodies. Meanwhile, along the coast, they're trying to protect those 31-inch plus fish because they're kind of the last of the breeding buffalo. It's the last of the big breeding stock. And we want to make sure that we leave enough of them around that we can have a good spawn. Crossing our fingers, because good golly, the last 5 years, the spawn has just stunk. It has just stunk. And, be that environmental conditions, water quality, temperatures, who knows? But, blue cats, I don't know. But the bottom line is, we need a good spawn. So I'm glad they're protecting those bigger fish. Vince is saying, how is this lock going to help the past 4 to 5 years of spawn? It's not, Vince. It will not help the bad spawn. What we're hoping is we maintain enough of that large breeding population that if we get good environmental conditions, the spawn can be magnificent. And we know that that's possible. Even back during the moratorium, the 2015 year class, that was the last biggie. Even back during the moratorium, a lot of people said, are there enough fish to even bring them back? And the truth of the matter is it took a relatively small number of breeders to just have a monster spawn and make a ton of baby rockfish. But you got to have those conditions. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. All right. We got one more here. Let's stir the pot. Why doesn't the DNR offer the commercial and charter guys an incentive for catch and keep blue catfish? So I got to say, honestly, I think they do. They made it really super easy to go catch those fish. They've removed a lot of the barriers, them and snakeheads too. And the incentive, the ultimate incentive to the commercial guys is we can go make some money. The blue cat commercial fishery is taking off. It is building substantially, as is the charter fishery form, which honestly, I think is the greatest thing in the world. Look, I'm going to tell you people right now, you want to have a ton of fun, get on one of the charters working in the Potomac River, fishing for blue cats in March. Because I did that last year, and I tell you what, it was nonstop action, the likes of which I've only rarely seen. I mean, we got 6 lines. 1 goes out, 2 goes out, 3 goes out. Whoa, the first one's down. Let's get the 4th out. Oh my God, the second one's down. I mean, it was just stellar, shocking, fast action. And bonus coolness feature, these were all eating size fish. They were like 22, 24 to like 28, 29-inch fish, which are the perfect eating size. They're outside of all the health advisories. They're not the big giant ones that collect all the chemicals in them. We were on the hot lick fishing with Captain Marcus, and he zapped all of them out with an electric fillet knife, and it was fantastic. Zach, don't take that off so quick. Put that last one back up there, please. So Michael's saying, don't forget the Patuxent River catfish charters. Michael, if I have, I apologize. I wasn't aware of any. So if they're out there, please put in the comments who's doing it. Let's find out. Let's spread the word. And there are probably some guys up on the Susquehanna, which also has a tremendous fishery going right now for them. I'm not aware of them. I don't know who's doing it. I hope somebody is. But it's it's just the fast-paced nature of it is just downright fun. And they're great to eat. They're actually good eating fish. They're not like most catfish, and they're the right size. So it's a very cool thing. It really is. And I would encourage anybody who wants to just have a really good time to go do it. And bonus feature, if you go do it on a charter boat, you don't have to suffer through the weather like you do on boats like mine, when it's March and blowing 20 and, 48 degrees. It can be a little rugged. But those big bay style charter boats, man, they got a, big cabin. You can duck in there and warm up. I remember Captain Marcus even had a heater going in the cabin for us. It was a fantastic time. I think Miss Susie's doing it too. Greg's boat.
Billy G's taking.
Billy, that's right. Billy said he's going down there with the ebb tide. He's going to give it a shot. Rock and Robin is down there doing it. You got a lot of options. You got a lot of this. This is something you can go do, and it's fun. I had a great time. Zach, you missed that trip, and I know you regretted it.
I know I did. Captain Drew's on here too. I'm not sure if he's doing it. Chime in.
I talked to him a couple weeks ago at the Chesapeake show, and man, I don't think we talked about it. He didn't mention where he was going to be in the late February, early March into April timeframe. Drew, if you're going to be doing it, let us know. My God, you could have like 30 people on that boat catching blue cats all at once.
I posted.
It'll put your mate to the test. I'll tell you that.
And I posted a link in the comments to the Lenny's video from last year that he's referring to. So
cool. Yeah, we've got a video on it. It's a great video. It tells you how to do it yourself. If you want to do it yourself, it gives you all the tips. A lot of fun. That really is a fun fishery. Fred saying Lady Vista charter fishing on the Susquehanna. Okay, so there's an option up north. Thank you, Fred. Excellent. Did we get a word on who's doing it on the Patuxent?
No.
Okay. Well, hopefully someone will chime in. I mean, I'm sure someone's doing it. And if no one's doing it on the Chop Tank, I'm surprised too, because they got it good over there too for these blue cats and numbers. But again, I'm not aware of anyone doing it, but hopefully someone is. The DNR likes to say, the best way is to fish our way out of them. Adam's saying Chubby Chaser is going down there. Adam, can you let us know down where? Are you talking the Potomac or is that the Chop Tank? Maybe he'll plug it in and just let us know where that's going on. Because anything we can do to help folks find, get in on this fishery is a good thing. Potomac. Okay, thank you. We want to make this happen. This is the DNR guys like to say the best solution to the blue cats is probably to fish our way out of them, and I think they're right. And these charter guys might not be commercial, but they're darn good at catching fish. And you go out on one of these boats, you're likely to catch more fish than you have any idea what to do with. I mean, honestly, this is a high energy, lots of bites kind of fishery. Very cool stuff. All right. Did we get through all the questions on there? Should we go to the current fisheries? I want to cover everything all at once, but I kind of hate it because I know there's someone out there who's sitting there like, God, would you talk about what's going on right now already? Yeah. Although this blue cat thing, I'll say is, it's tough to do right now because it's so cold, but it is going on. They're eating right now too. Not what I had on the agenda for tonight.
And everyone, fishtalkbag.com, click on the charter button. We got a bunch of participating advertising charter boats there. And you know what? A lot of these guys are networked and have lots of friends. So you can call anyone on here. And if they don't do these, they're going to tell you, they're going to have a couple buddies that do. So
that's a very good point, Zach. Thank you for bringing that up. You can go to our charter guide and get in touch with any of those folks and say, hey, I want to do blue cat charter. And if they're not doing it, they're going to point you in the right direction.
Cool. All right, let's move on. I think we kind of covered everything.
All right, let's get our next slide up there. So this is a species that is in the reports this week. The reports came in at about 5 o'clock tonight. I'll have them up by noon tomorrow, as usual, of course. But I'll tell you right now, the reports had several mentions of crappie, specifically in the eastern shore tributary rivers. We're talking, far upriver here. But the crappie they're biting. And like we mentioned earlier, Eric and Herb saw some over in the mill ponds. They're biting in the mill ponds too. These fish will bite all winter, and they're a great option. Now, you can catch them with little teeny jigs. I'm talking like, 1 to 2 inch jigs is all you want. Oh, there's Herb. Caught a bunch of pickerel and a few bass and a 14-inch slab. That's a nice crappie. 14 inches is nice. I'll tell you what, Herb. The picture I pulled for a crappie tonight was not 14 inches. Doesn't even come close. So that's a nice one. But they'll hit the little jigs. They'll hit minnow. For crappie, you do want to use a smaller minnow. It's not like yellow perch. Yellow perch will eat a monster minnow. I mean, you'll catch a 6-inch yellow perch on the biggest bull minnow you ever seen in your life. Not so with crappie. Okay, so you want to pick the small minnow in the bucket for them. And if you're going to go out right now at this time of year, my personal suggestion is you do get minnows. Swing by the tackle shop, get a pint, because while you can catch them on the lures, real Sharpies are pretty good at it, and they'll make it happen in the winter. But if you're not like super experienced, it can be really hard to get them to bite artificials at this time of year. On the other hand, you put minnow out there, they slurp them down. So, I mean, that's my suggestion. Some people may call it less sporting, whatever. I think you're going to catch a lot more fish using a little minnow right now for crappie.
And Clydes, fish bones, and anglers all stock them year round.
Excellent. Excellent. All right, let's zap on to the next slide. Our next species to talk about is the yellow perch. Who's that guy on the kayak? Who is that?
I don't know, man.
That might be Zach holding up a nice Eastern Shore yellow perch. Again, same exact deal. These fish right now, you can catch them on the lures. You can tease them into biting. If you go with minnow, you're likely to catch a lot more. Now, like I said before, they don't care how big the minnow is. They like a big minnow. When I'm fishing for yellow perch, I fish around in there and I try and grab out the biggest bull minnow I possibly can. I lip hook it, usually on a shad dart, bottom rig if I'm casting from shore into current, into a deeper water. And I just get it right down near the bottom and just kind of hover it there. Doesn't need a lot of action. They just absolutely love that. Now, we got to remember, the perch are not exactly running yet. So you're going to find them in the pre-run areas. You're not going to find them up the rivers. You're going to find them in the deep holes, 10, 12, 18 feet, 20 feet, downriver from those spawning zones. And how deep a hole you need kind of depends on what body of water you're fishing and what depth of water is available to those perch. But as a general rule, you just get downstream from that spawning zone, look for the first big hole, you'll find them balled up in there. Amped Up is saying, catching a few on the Magathy recently. Awesome, awesome. The Magathy is interesting. It doesn't, the holes aren't so important. They tend to kind of wander around through the creeks there. And what I love about the Magathy is pre-run, you can have really good yellow perch fishing. Like sometimes it's hard to find them in some other areas. But in the Magathy, you go to a creek, you fish the docks, right? You fish an area like Beechwood where you can cast from shore, Beechwood Park. You can catch good numbers of yellow perch, and it's interesting. They seem to kind of wander around. You'll get these spurts where, like, you get 5 hits in 10 minutes, and then you get no hits for the next 20 minutes, and then all of a sudden you get all these hits again. So it's again a great area to fish for. All right, our next species up is the pickerel. Now, we've already talked a little bit about them. And as a general rule of thumb, what I like to do during the winter is suspend a big minnow, the bigger the better, on a small white bucktail or a large white shad dart underneath of a bobber, and I drift them around, and that's how I catch my pickerel. Now, what's interesting is Eric, the last 2 trips, I believe, has had really good luck on jerkbaits. And a couple years ago, my son David was throwing a purple jerkbait. He caught when the minnows weren't producing. He absolutely did. So should you bring minnow? I say it's a good idea. Should you make sure you got some jerkbaits you can throw out there too and fish for a while? Absolutely. There are times when they just don't want to seem to hit the minnow. And during those times, that's usually when the lures kind of shine. Another lure you want to have on hand is something with a spinner blade, a little spinner bait, like a oversized beetle spin, or something with an inline spinner. Roadrunner is one of my personal favorites. I love throwing a Roadrunner for pickerel. I put a minnow on there with it, but I throw the Roadrunner, and sometimes that whomping, flashing blade, it just really seems to pull these fish in and get them biting. All right, what do we got up next, Zach?
Well, I just thought we'd hit this question real quick.
Sure. What type of line and pound to use to catch crappie or yellow perch? Good question. Good question. So what I like, well, first off, it's a personal choice. But second off, what you want to stay light. What I like is an ultralight rod rigged up with 6-pound braid, and then I put on top of that 4 or 6 pound leader, depending on the situation in the fish. I love that for throwing shad darts to crappie and yellow perch. Now, bear with me, people, for just a half a second. I'm going to get over here behind me to my rod rack. Okay, this is exactly what I'm talking about right here. You can see it's a little reel. Let me get the numbers off of it. I'm not sure if it's a 1,000 or a 2,000. Of course, it's going to make it hard on me. It's not marked. But that's 6-pound braid.
It's a 1,000. I remember when you got that.
A 1,000. Thank you. I can't see the numbers anywhere. And then here, you can see I've got one of my favorite little spinner baits right here. This is a Super Rooster. And you can see I've got that super light mono leader right on there. And this is a very light rod. This is a St. Croix Fast Action 6 Light Power. So, and that's right off of my rack. That is pretty much my favorite rig for the perch and the crappie. Crappie go to the 4-pound test. The crappie, they get really funky sometimes on the leader. Vince is saying you always use wire leader when fishing for pickerel. No, I don't. But that rig, that's crappie and perch. That's not what I'm throwing for the pickerel. If I'm throwing for the pickerel, I'm going to turn around again. It's kind of funny. If I'm throwing for the pickerel, I'm throwing pretty much exactly what I use for schoolie rockfish. This is a Shimano Stratic C3000. I've got 12-pound braid on there. Okay, let's get that up in the shade. There we go. Shimano Stratic 3000, 12-pound braid. And then, oh, look, I grabbed one off the rack with no leader. I'm putting 20-pound fluoro on this. Now, pickerel really aren't leader shy. They just don't seem to care. They really don't. And if you use 6-pound leader, you're going to get cut off more than you're going to catch fish. If you use 12-pound leader, half and half. 20-pound fluoro, that pretty much stands up to those teeth for a fish or two. You want to check your leader after every fish you catch. You may find some abrasion. You may want to chop off the end and retie. Okay. But 20-pound fluoro, that's what I like for the pickerel. Does wire work? I guess it probably does, but I got to tell you, to be perfectly honest with you, I've never tried it. I've always found this effective, so I've never gone to it.
So we had a question earlier in the show. I'm sorry we didn't get to it, but now that we're talking about gear, everything Lenny just said regarding pickerel is the same for snakehead. That same exact rig, that same exact leader is a good recommendation.
Excellent. Thank you, Zach.
Yeah.
All right, should we go to the next fish? We got another fish, right? How many fish we got? Pretty sure we got a couple more fish. The bass. So, I'm going to be honest with you, people. I catch most of my winter bass by accident because I'm fishing for perch, crappie, or pickerel, and they eat the same stuff. But if you happen to float a minnow under a bobber in the wintertime, you'll catch a lot of bass. Like, it happens quite a bit. This is on the Pocomoke, but in the mill ponds too. Quite often they'll eat a minnow on a shad dart. I would love to tell you what the best artificial is to use them right now, but honestly, I'm not an expert on that. And if anybody has any strong opinions, feel free to chime in. But like I say, most of mine I get by accident. But they'll eat the minnow and the shad dart, minnow and shad dart, minnow and shad dart. It's a wonderful thing. All right, let's go on to the next, please. Yeah, we're going to kind of fly through it too, because we hit pickerel pretty thoroughly. What you can't see in this picture is there's a bobber above, about 3 feet above that shad dart. Great way to fish for them. What I'll normally do is park the boat and drift, cast out a bobber off the bow, off the stern. I'll drift along until the bobbers come together, and then I'll reel one in and toss it back out. And then when that one gets about halfway back, I'll reel the other in, retoss it out. So straight out the back, straight out the front. You want to keep them kind of separated, because when a pickerel takes the minnow, if the bobbers are too close together, often he'll tangle the lines. And for that reason, I fish 2 lines at a time for the pickerel. I don't fish 3. Done it a million times, had a million tangles, came to the conclusion it just wasn't worth it. You get tangled so often when you have 3 lines out there and you hook a fish, and then you end up spending half your time undoing tangles and retying lines. Ugh. So 2 lines, bow stern. If you're unsure, you can go to 3 for sure. Toby's saying, what knot do you use for the braid to fluoro? So I just do a uni to uni, which is a pretty basic one. Zach, don't we have an article that illustrates the uni to uni on Fish Talk Mag?
I don't recall. I like the Albright or Crazy Alberto.
Ooh, Now you're getting fancy on me.
It's just easy. I learned it and it works, and I've never broke. Well, maybe once.
I know a lot of guys who are really good who do. They like that the Alberto. We do have.
I know LJ likes it because we had talked to him about it.
So we do have. If you go to fishtalkmag.com and just put uni into the search box, which is what I just did, we do have an article with video on multiple knots, which includes the uni to uni. I don't see the Alberto on there. Maybe that's what we'll do in the future. But this we do have them covered here.
Yeah, the FG, that's like probably the number 3. You know, those are the 3 basically everyone's using.
Yeah, the truth of the matter is, as long as they hold good, you know, whatever's in your brain and easiest for you to tie fast. You know, I like to stay away from the more complex knots simply because there's more room for error with them. And I have seen really good anglers, like professional level guys, tie a bimini twist, but they're in a hurry, and then it falls apart. And I've seen that happen more than once. So you know, the more complex you get, the more chance there is you're gonna, you know, not pay attention at the wrong time or just mess something up, whatever. All right, let's go on to our next fish. The yellow perch. And I put this on here, even though we already talked about yellow perch, because I just wanted to show this dart minnow combo. This is a fish from the, I keep pointing the wrong way. There we go. It's all backwards. This is a fish in the Pocomoke River, just above Snow Hill. And what we do there is super simple, but so effective. You just simply go to the channel where it's deepest. So it's only like 10, 12 feet there. Take that shad dart, put the minnow hook going in through the bottom lip, out through the top, drop it down to the bottom, and then bring it up about 6 inches. Hold steady. Every now and again, give it a gentle little 3 inches of jig. That's all. Hold it steady for 5 seconds. Couple gentle jigs. Hold it steady. Man, you do that, you will get pounded by these perch. And very often you'll catch crappie doing the same thing, maybe bring the jig up another foot or so, because they tend to suspend a little more. And then if at the same time you do the bobber rig with your 20-pound test, cast it out close to one of the edges of the channel where the channel drops in, and let it drift along there with a current. As you drift along with your shad dart, you'll pick up big pickerel on that bobber rig with the heavier leader while you do that. And that's kind of my favorite modus operandi for fishing there. I'll go there, I'll have 2 rods, I'll have a heavy and a light rod's going straight down, shad dart minnow, and the bigger rod with the 20-pound leader, I'm casting that along the edge of the channel, and then I'm sitting that rod in a holder, and I'm just letting that drift along, kind of half ignoring it while I fish my dart, you know, just kind of keep a half an eyeball on that bobber. And when that goes down, that's almost always either a pickerel or a bass. Bass will hit that the same way. Woo! Okay, I think we ran through all our slides here. What's our timing looking like? We got some time here, people. So if you got some questions on anything we've talked about, feel free to pop them in. Tight lines. Do these fish spook if you run your motor? You know, not really, as far as I can tell. Not a whole lot anyway. Although, you know, truth be told, most of the time when I'm running gas, it's in the Magathy. And I can't say I've ever noticed an issue there, or the Baltimore Creeks. The Pocomoke, the mill ponds, I'm actually running an electric motor all the time. So maybe it does in those more contained venues. I honestly am not sure. Anybody, if you have any direct experience with this, chime in. But I have my little boat has a e-propel 3 horsepower electric, and that's actually what I run in the mill ponds, in the contained rivers. I don't take that little boat into the Magathy. It's too small for it. But in these kind of venues, that's normally what I'm using. I'm thinking back to when I used to have a 16-footer with a 30-horse Suzuki that I often ran in these rivers, and I never noticed back then any real impact. Certainly on the yellow perch, I'm not sure I would have noticed with the crappie. Most of this fishing, you're doing is drift fishing. So I would assume you're going to shut your motor off while you're drifting, at least most of the time. But I can't, man, I can't give a for sure answer on that with a gas motor. Now that said, a 4-stroke gas motor, I seriously doubt will have an impact if it's idling because you can't hear it underwater. You really can't. I've dropped down a microphone and listened. And a 2-stroke, man, you hear that. You totally hear that. 4-stroke, the loudest noise is the telltale spraying down onto the water surface, that dribble. That's the loudest thing you hear underwater. Unless you shift, that makes a lot of noise. Excuse me, metal hitting metal when you're shifting. And a 2-stroke is just metal on metal all the time. It makes a constant racket. And of course, when you're in gear and moving, you've got propeller noise to think about. Now, the electric will make that too. They make that whirring sound underwater. It's like a wee, 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 wee. And all props do that. All props do it. So I'm not. But again, if you're drifting, that's not in play. So.
All right.
Do we have? Oh, we do have other questions. So here's Herb saying Minn Kota and spot lock is the way to go in these small waters or a kayak. I don't have that on my little boat, and I imagine it would be wonderful because I know having spot lock on my big boat has, that's been like revolutionary for me. How many minnow are in a pint? Great question, and I'll tell you why that's a great question. Because about 3 years ago, I bought a pint of minnow at a store that will remain nameless, and the guy behind the counter really didn't know what he was doing, and he threw like a dozen minnow in my bucket. And I was like, I didn't even notice. I walked out and then I looked in to see the size of the minnow and how good they were. Because you got to do that the moment you walk out of the tackle shop, right? You got to peek in the minnow bucket. And I peek in and there's like a dozen minnow. And I was like, whoa, I just paid for a pint. So I walked back in and explained to the guy that the way a pint works is you're supposed to have an actual pint cup, right? And a reputable tackle shop will have a pint cup sitting next to the tank of minnow. And then the minnow gets scooped out in a net and dumped into the pint cup. And you're going to get, depending on the size of the minnow, 3 or 4 dozen out of that. There's a lot of minnow in there.
Unless they're those destroyers, and then you get like 12. But they're like,
well, now the minnow destroyers or the snakehead destroyers, you're right. That's a different story. Those things are all like that big. But like if you go into Anglers, right? I've been in their minnow room, right? That fridge in back. And you go in there and they've got a half a pint cup and a pint cup sitting there tied off to a piece of fishing line so they don't get lost. So everybody knows, all the guys in there don't mess it up. They fill them up with minnow. So you should be talking 3-4 dozen at least for a full pint. And Wayne's asking, how well do power bait minnows work? Wayne, in the summertime, they work pretty darn good when you jig them on a dart or a head. In the wintertime, trying to use them as a substitute for minnow, I don't know. I have not tried it. So I'm not going to make a call on that. Again, if anybody's tried that and has an opinion, chime in. Let us know. But I just don't know. I can't say that's something I've tried in the winter. I have tried them ice fishing, where you put them on a little teeny ice jig and jiggle them. And I've had, I would say, limited success. You catch fish, but I don't think as good as the real deal. Vince is asking, any idea on how this year's yellow perch spawn looks? Vince, I don't think we really know yet because, I mean, it's a lot's going to depend on the weather conditions when that spawn occurs. And we can't predict. Is the water going to be all mucked up? Is it going to be high? Is it going to be low? We just don't know, so that's TBD. Fred's asking about yellow perch and Nanjamoy. Fred, man, oh my God. So I bet you and I could have an interesting conversation because Nanjamoy used to be my hands down favorite place to go perch fishing. Man, you could catch an awful lot of perch there. You could catch an awful lot of huge perch there. And my wife one time caught the biggest yellow perch I've ever seen I'm telling you, the thing looked like it had to weigh 3 pounds. Its belly was like, I mean, it was huge. And she opted to let it go as opposed to taking home and weighing it. Cool decision, right? We had, we were keeping plenty of fish. And that's one of the things we normally do is when you catch a female with a big fat belly, hell, let it go. Keep a male. A 10-inch male has just as much meat on it as a 10-inch female, even though it doesn't look as big. Anyway, I'm getting off the point. I'm sorry. Somewhere around 10, 12 years ago, maybe a little more, maybe 15 years ago, the perch run in Najamoy started to peter out, and it just got worse and worse and worse. And I kind of stopped going there. And then I talked to more than one person since then who live in the area who have told me that it ain't what it used to be. It is not a tremendous perch run anymore. So I hope there's still some there, but I'm afraid it's not what it was. So same kind of goes for Allen's Fresh. I've heard the same thing about Allen's Fresh. Haven't fished that in a long time, but I've been hearing the same thing. So Sam's saying power bait minnows do work good in the winter. It's actually my favorite lure. Interesting. Okay. Thank you, Sam. That's very interesting. Herb saying he's caught pickerel and bass on 3 and 5-inch Berkeley minnow on a jig, but prefer live minnow if you can get them. So that goes, I think that's pretty much right in line with my feelings, Herb, because I know the times I tried it ice fishing, like I caught some fish. It wasn't a skunk, but it just didn't seem like they were hitting quite as fast and furious as they might have with minnow. Of course, at this time of year, it can be tough to get minnow. Zach, rattle off those shops again that we know them for sure.
Clyde's in Linthicum, Fishbones on Mountain Road in Pasadena, and Anglers. And
cool.
And maybe Chesapeake Outdoors over the bridge is worth checking out as well. And the Bait Boys, I hear the Bait Boys are coming back with some supply that's
I think historically, I seem to remember Chesapeake Outdoors did have them. I could be wrong.
Last year, because I can't remember why, but I got some there last winter.
Okay.
I don't know what time of year it was. It might have been spring, though.
Well, easy enough to figure out, right, folks? Yep. Just call up your local tackle shop, bottom line, and ask them.
All about bait and tackle on B&A Boulevard also has minnows. So
whoever's closest to you. Yep. Adam said, "Oh, okay, that was all about."
So I dog-eared Lee's comment, and he's actually got two. So I'm going to put one up, and he's got a follow-up. Are there any tautog in the bay? And if not, anywhere nearby?
So absolutely, there are tautog in the bay. They don't tend to come real far up the bay. Most of the times when you're talking tautog, you're talking Virginia, right? Now, interestingly, we've been hearing about all kinds of crazy southern fish coming up the bay in recent years, right? We've had cutlass fish. We've had more reds and specks. We've had the bigger sea bass. All kinds of stuff's been coming up the bay. I heard, I want to say at least 3 different tautog catches in Maryland water this year. And I think they were summer and fall. I remember the target ship was one spot, so it's kind of like just barely in Maryland. I don't remember the other spots in specific, but they were Maryland waters. They weren't way up the bay. It wasn't like, Thomas Point or something like that. But yeah, they're in the bay, and they seem to be moving a little farther up. So what's the follow-up? You got me curious, Zach.
Oh, no, yeah, another question. Of course, you can call Monty Hawkins, get a spot on his boat out in Ocean City. Right?
Heck yeah. Now you're talking tautog.
Lee just had another question. What happened to all the large croaker?
Oh, man. I wish I knew. They always seem to be a cyclical fish. I've seen them come and go a couple times in my lifetime in big numbers, but they haven't come back. It's past time for them to come back. And it seems like year after year after year, when you go spot fishing, you catch these tiny little croaker. There are lots of the little ones around, but for whatever reason, they don't seem to get that big, couple pound size that they used to and come back up here. And I would add, Lee, that it's the same for weakfish. It's exactly the same. I remember we had good weakfish, and I guess it was the mid to late 80s. Then they disappeared. They just disappeared. And then we had great weakfish in like the late 90s. They disappeared. They came back again. They disappeared in the early 2000s, and they have not been back, like, at all. Now, last year, a certain someone, wait, was it last year or was it the season before, Zach? When you got your nice weak fish?
That was 22, summer of 22.
Wow, it's amazing how time flies. So it was already not last summer, but the summer before. Zach got a real nice one. Now that was all the way down in Virginia, but I don't know why these fish do tend to run in cycles. It's a really interesting experiment. If you start Googling around and you really dig deep, you can find a cover from Sports Afield, I think it was 1957, that bemoaned the disappearance of the weakfish, right? Clearly they come back since then and gone away. And I think croaker and weakfish both are very cyclical fish. They move in these cycles. There are a bunch of them, then they're gone. Then there are a bunch of them, then they're gone. But it does seem to me like we're long overdue for both of those species. And neither have really come back in, sizable, in numbers and size. And I don't know why. I'm not sure anybody does. Wayne saying he has a picture of a tog. Wow, at a reef ball at Tillman Island. Dang, that's cool. I don't think I've ever heard of one quite that far north. That is super cool. Man, can you imagine going to Tillman Reef and catching tog? Of course, a year ago, I would have said, can you imagine going to Tillman Reef and catching keeper sea bass? And then last year it was happening. John says, what's going on fish-wise at the Bay Bridge right now? So I have heard a couple spotty, I caught a fish here, I caught a fish there. Like I said, the reports just came in. We had one report, I think from just south of the bridge, of someone who jigged all day and caught a 25-incher. We've heard about a few scattered big rockfish in these big schools. And maybe there's been one report in the last 2 weeks of a really good day. What you got to realize is, as the water gets as cold as it is right now in the main stem bay, right? You're talking 41 to 38, really low temperature waters. The rockfish are still there, right? Those fish that were busting it up in late December, they didn't go back to the ocean in all likelihood. You never say never, right? With fish, you do what they want. But in all likelihood, vast likelihood, they didn't go back to the ocean. They're in the bay. But when it gets super duper cold, they get super duper slow. And they really don't have a whole lot of interest in chasing anything. And you'll get these bite windows at this time of year that are like, man, they might be 15 minutes out of the entire day. So now if you want to go catch fish, you got to be in the right place at the right time with a 15-minute bite window. Very difficult to really, get in on these fish. I would suspect, and I can't swear this, I haven't been there, I would suspect that there are rockfish around the Bay Bridge, particularly at the rock piles, which often holds them, in cold times, to some degree, right? Might be a bunch, might be a few. I don't know. But there are probably some there to some degree. But they're probably also going to be really tough to catch. They really are. All of that said, I'll add that as a general rule of thumb, not 100%, general rule of thumb, fishing late in the day right now is going to be the way to do it. You're going to want to fish like often at this time of year, kind of that magic time frame is going to be somewhere between like 3 and 4:30, when the sun's still up in the sky and providing warmth, and the water's warmed up as much as it's going to warm up. That's sort of the time. And I'll also point out, our friend Kevin, he showed us back in, 2000 or 2019, he was fishing in the Severn and catching fish regularly in the middle of the winter in like 8 to 12 feet of water, waiting for the sun to warm it up, and then late in the afternoon throwing jigs on these flats adjacent to deeper water where the fish had moved up to feed in the sunshine. And he caught, we have a feature on this because he caught them regular and impressed the heck out of me. And I was like, dude, will you write this up? And he wrote up a feature for us on it.
He was using Chirpole BKDs, if I recall.
That sounds right. And I'm sure that article is going to be on fishtalkmag.com. Man, I can't remember what it would have been called. I don't know, but
I'll look for it. You talk to Grant. Grant wants to know if Black Drum used to be a Maryland Chesapeake thing.
yeah, they sure did. Particularly, we had a phenomenal run from basically the middle of May to the middle of June at the Stone Rock. They would show up off of Janes Island for about, I don't know, a week or two. Then they move up to the Stone Rock, and they were all big fish. Man, you'd be catching 50, 60, 80 pounders. And it was reliable pretty much my entire lifetime up until about 8-10 years ago. And it just stopped. I don't know why. Now, interestingly, they still are popping up at places like the airplane wreck reef in the Chop Tank. You kind of hear about them popping up here and there, but they're not like that big school that everybody used to go after. We did have lots and lots of baby black drum in the Chesapeake Bay this year. I caught some. It's very cool. They're like, this big, little babies. You could catch them on shad darts and grass shrimp. They were in Ramsey. They were all over the place. And it's such a wonderful thing to see. I didn't hear about any really big ones, but the year before last, I got one that was maybe, I don't know, 8 or 10 pounds, which is a great eating size in the Chop Tank. So interestingly, I was talking to someone who for years has done the Delaware Bay black drum fishery, which was also historically big fish. And he said about the same timing, that also petered out, really went down. So I wonder if it might be a life cycle thing with those fish. Those are very long living fish. I don't know their exact ages, but I tried counting the scales once on a 54 pounder, and I got to 38 and lost count. I mean, they're old fish, so I guess those cycles take a long time to occur. I think I even have somewhere in a desk drawer here, I have scales from that fish. I saved them because at the time it was the biggest drum I'd ever seen, and I did take it home. Shucks, I don't know where those scales.
All right, that's our next contest. How many fish scales does Lenny have in his desk?
Okay, wait, I found them.
Oh, jeez.
Look at this bag of fish scales. Now, I don't keep drum like this anymore, and I don't suggest anybody does because they have worms in their meat. They're not incredible. Look at that. Look at my fingernail versus the scale of that. What are you doing?
All right.
That was on purpose.
No, it wasn't.
That is a monster scale. That's off a Stone Rock black drum. And like I said, you really don't want to keep those big ones anymore. You never did. I didn't know back then. This is from when I was in my 20s. But the meat has worms in it. They're not very tasty. It's really chewy. You don't want those big drum. 20 pounds and under, they're awesome. They're just like redfish. They really are. But those big giant ones, man, just let them go. Toby's saying, had about 2 weeks this summer at Sunset. Good black drum bite in the mid-chop tank. Awesome. Shallow water at one point. Very cool. Okay, that's great to hear. What size, Toby? What size? Were they the little ones or the big ones? I'm curious. Inquiring minds want to know.
So I found that article pretty easy. I just typed in winter striped bass, or just typed in winter, and there's the chirple jig right there that I was talking about.
Awesome. Nice job, Zach. You are fast at that, man. Thank you.
Oh, the search box works great.
It does. It really does. I always tell people when they ask me a question about a particular species, I'm like, just type it into the search box. You'll get like every article we've ever done about it. And at this point, we're coming up on 7 years of Fish Talk.
Wow.
April's going to mark 7 years. So who can do math? What's 7 times 12 is like more than 70. 7 times 12, 84. And then multiply that by 7 features a month. What's 84 times 7? I don't know. I'm not going there. But it's a lot of feature articles. So we've covered a lot of stuff at this point.
I got nowhere to be. And we got plenty of people still tuned in. Thank you, everyone. Great engagement tonight.
Oh, we're over time. I didn't even notice.
You can't trust clocks. You had, I'll remind you in a second, but I think we're just going to take one last question here, and then you have
we got Wayne's book to give away. Don't forget.
Giveaway and another topic we need to bring up as well. So sorry for any other questions we don't get to, but Vince was asking, when will we get the rest of the striper eggs after the comment period ends? How long do we have to wait?
Vince, I wish I could tell you. I honestly don't know. They have not told us. There's been no statement about that, so I honestly don't know. I really don't know. I got no clue.
Okay. All right, Lenny, you want to talk about flounder?
Oh my God, we forgot to bring up flounder? I forgot to bring up flounder. Did I really? Did I not bring up the flounder?
I just brought it up.
Oh my God, Zach, thank you so much for saving my butt. Everybody, flounder are also up for regulation changes right now. The meeting, there's a public input meeting going on right now, but you can give your public input. Go to ccamaryland.org/news. And right now, and I'm going to tell you, CCA is not taking a position on which option to pick because these options basically just change the season and the bag limit. The way flounder are managed, there's a cut that has to be made across the board. What we know is there are 5 options. They all have a 17-inch minimum. The bag limit ranges from 2 to 4 per day per person. And the big change here is in the seasons. There are several closed seasons in play here. And I want everybody to look at that very top one. If they opt to keep the bag limit of 4 fish at 17 inches, season closes September 21. Man, I find that personally upsetting because there's a lot of times in October, November, I might catch a flounder. I might be fishing for rockfish or whatever and catch one by accident. Man, if I get a keeper, I'd love to keep it. But these options, it's really what's in play here is the seasons and the bag limit. So you make your own decision about which option you would dislike the least and then make your public comment. You have until, I think it's February 8th. Yes. Correct. Yes, you have until February 8th to make your public comment. And this is for all jurisdictions. This is for the Bay. This is for the ocean, OC, everything, Virginia, all inclusive. So, good Lord, Zach, I am so glad you reminded me to bring that up. That would have been tragic if I forgotten to mention that because we only got until February 8th. So, a week.
This hearing is going on as we speak. So if anyone wants to jump on, you just hop over to the CCA website. You can catch the tail end of this. It's going till 8 p.m. So
that's and you can give
now.
Yeah, that allows you to give public comment verbally. The other ways we mentioned is all written, which is fine. I mean, honestly, they both count. So yeah, time for public comment. So yeah, I might jump off of this and jump right onto there. In fact, I think I'll do just that.
All right, so thanks again, everybody, for tuning in.
Let's give away a book. We got one of Wayne's books here.
We do. So if you don't win the book, just hop on over to Amazon, type in Wayne Young, and you get his whole collection here.
Yeah, if you read Fish Talk, you've already seen a gajillion of his articles, right? Just look for the Wayne Young articles. They go into the reefs, they go into the wrecks, a lot of detail, often GPS coordinates, just tons of info on the wrecks and reef and the structure throughout not only the bay, but also up and down the coast. So great stuff. This one here is up for grabs. Zach, how do we draw a winner?
Well, this is new, so we're going to give this a try. We had 41 eligible comments according to our StreamYard platform. And I will hit draw. That's kind of cool.
I kind of like how that works.
All right. Adam Sheminsky.
Oh!
Wait, I got to be ready next time,
Congratulations, Adam.
I got to be ready for this. Yeah. So, Adam, you can shoot Lenny a message or send him an email, and he'll get that book out to you.
Yeah, Adam, please shoot me over an email and give me your address, your mailing address, and congratulations, you won a book.
Cool. All right, we'll tune in to our fishing reports, which will go live tomorrow. Adam says, "Holy hell, I might learn something."
By noon tomorrow. Well, thank you everybody for joining. We appreciate it. We hope you found this enjoyable. And Zach, thank you very much for pulling the levers behind the curtain there.
Yeah, I only hit one wrong button. So see y'all next month.